It's the Sports Take Lunch Break, brought to you by Office Essentials. First thing, St. Louis sports. We're going to start off actually with a quick little plug. If you haven't listened, in December we actually had Deanna Price, who's a St. Louis native, an Olympian hammer thrower, and actually the gold medal world champion. She was in here last month, sat down with me for a nice one-on-one discussion. Her podcast is up live, so if you haven't listened, please be sure to go and check it out. It was a really good time.
Wonderful person.
Great person, fantastic role model for everyone across the country.
Just a really interesting story.
Absolutely. So definitely check out Deanna's special. We're going to lead off, though, with the St. Louis Cardinals Team of the Decade. So one of our podcast gentlemen, Stuart Holtgren, put together his picks for the best players for the Cardinals over the 2010s decade. Stuart, unfortunately, is not here to really
himself.
Yeah, he's not defending himself. But if you're curious what's on Stuart's team, you can go to the Office Essentials blog. That's at rethinktheessentials.com. Greg, you look like you want to jump in with something real quick.
Well, no, that's exactly what I was going to say, and also that's where you can find the link to the Deanna Price podcast interview.
Absolutely. So even though Stu's not here to defend himself, we won't go at him too much this week. We'll save that for next week. But it is worth getting into it because the three of us have all looked at the team of the decade, and I'm sure there's some things that we maybe agree or disagree with. So, Greg, you actually have a printout of the team. Would you mind reading off who Stuart picked for the various positions?
Sure. He went by position.
By year, too.
By year.
So he picked
by
the
position
best.
by year. For example, the best catcher year of the decade, is that how you would say that?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Is Yadier Molina, obviously, but it's his 2012 season. And, well, should we get into Stuart's criteria real quick?
Let's do that. Yeah, please do.
He used the B-WAR stat, which is the baseball reference version of WAR, which is defined as WAR is wins above replacement. The whole thing seeks to measure how much better a particular player is than the average player would typically be at that position. And Baseball Reference puts their own spin on it. If you want to nerd out, you can go to Baseball Reference, and they break it down in...
Oh, so the B is Baseball Reference only.
Yeah, there's a F-WAR for Fangraphs, I think.
Yeah, I think there's a D-WAR as well.
So Stuart went with, and we'll ask Stuart next week why he chose Baseball Reference. But anyway.
So, Greg, you're a big baseball guy. Just quickly looking over the list, anyone that's listening can go to the Office Essentials blog and look at the full list. Is there a name that jumps out at you immediately that you are surprised that's on the list, or vice versa?
Yeah, actually, he has
A couple of them.
Yeah, a couple, yeah. Colby Rasmus as the center fielder, his 2010 season being the representative center field season of the decade.
Who would you say maybe you thought should get the spot?
That's a good question, Andrew.
Okay.
I don't know. Without putting much thought into it.
Uh-huh.
Mostly because my memory is terrible and I can't remember when Edmonds retired.
Yeah. Rasmus was a good player, but I just didn't think his stats warranted.
If Rasmus was starting in 2010, Edmonds must have been retired before that.
You'd assume so. Yeah.
That's my bad for not knowing. I don't even know what year we're in now. So
We're in the future. It's 2020.
I would think. I would have thought there'd been a better season somewhere along the line, but apparently there was not.
What about you, Dan? You'd mentioned there's a couple that are a little controversial to you.
Not really controversial. Well, yeah, a little bit controversial. I mean, carpet two positions. I would have tried to alleviate, one of those spots. Although I know he's played what 3, 4, 5 positions for us.
If you could only put Carpenter, Stewart's got Carpenter at 2 different positions as you referenced.
Second base and third base. If
you could only pick one of those 2, which one are you keeping on the list?
I think he's a third baseman. I mean,
okay.
I think of him as a third baseman.
Yeah, if you go by Stewart's criteria, though, he had a better WAR season at second base.
Yeah.
So not to plug another blog, but RedbirdRants.com also did basically the same thing that Stewart did, and they had some different opinions. They had David Freese in 2012 at third base. It was the only year that he made the All-Star team. So they thought that David Freese deserved the third base spot as opposed to who Stewart did?
Well, I think what we need to do is get Stewart in here and grill him, hold him down and grill him.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes, exactly.
Make him defend these decisions.
To me, the most shocking one is the 1 year that the Cardinals won the World Series in the decade, 2011. There's nobody on the list. How do you exclude the team that won the championship from having a single player that was good enough to?
Well, I guess
That was a little bit of it.
I didn't even catch that, Andrew. That's a good catch.
We had a lot of. It seemed like that was a year of a lot of rotations, wasn't it? Didn't we have a lot of? I mean, weren't we playing a four-man outfield at that time? And
yeah, it all blurs. But, it's a blur to me. But based on his criteria, though, I guess he could easily defend it.
Sure.
That's why I think we need to grill him.
You're right. We'll table that for now. We
Yeah.
won't go too in depth until next week when Stewart's in here, and we'll really
just a little teaser for that. I mean, we got to ask him why Seung-Wan Oh is his reliever of the decade.
Trevor Rosenthal. I mean, how do you leave him off the list? That's me. But.
yeah,
Right.
see that's where I was a little confused when Stewart was talking about doing this. I assumed that he was looking at the whole decade. Whereas he's taken out individual years from the decade, which, I mean, more power to him if that's how he wanted to look at it. But
You tend to see people do all decade lists with the totality of a player's play over the whole decade, but I think maybe that's why Stewart did it this way, is it's going to stand out a little from the crowd.
Yeah.
So
I don't have a problem with that. I just, we'll get him in here, and next week a little teaser, figure out why he's fascinated with Seung-Wan Oh.
That's right. So be sure to go to rethinktheessentials.com, check out Stewart's team, come up with some questions, send them over to us. We'll ask Stewart next week when he's in the studio.
Yeah, and you can, leave a comment or tweet us if you have a question or a bone to pick, and we'll make sure to pass that along to old Stewart.